Okay, I do believe I'm streaming. Hello everybody, it is Mike Levin on Thursday, May 26, 2022. And I wanted to take a moment to make sure that my environment was all set up for you with a chat here so I could see you texting to me while I gave you my daily thoughts and what led up to today's session on pip install-e. So I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit. My thoughts were basically, I do think I want to blow up on YouTube. I think it's a practical alternative to running out of money. Given I'm already at 10,700 some subscribers, I should be able to get to 50,000, 100,000. I just got to be myself. Keep doing my interesting stuff, inviting you in on it, and get better at the process. Schedule these things so you know when to join in. Be more consistent about my time here. There's after work, there's during lunch, and there's the middle of the night. Possibly early in the morning as well. So I did my evaluation about what was most broken, and it turns out while I was fixing my blog release system that you're probably familiar with now by the thing that makes these pages that look like this with these nifty previous next arrows, I decided to just go in and fix those title tags. They're pretty much fixed now. So the crosshairs are lined up for SEO. Write Python web crawler, toil and talk with audience. That is the headline. That is the URL. That is also now the title tag, which it wasn't before. So in my what's most broken analysis of things in my personal life for the day, amongst other stuff like moving to Staten Island to be close to my kid, taking care of the lease stuff because it all gets mixed together. I'm the big integrated life, I'm the person who doesn't keep it all separate. So you'll hear about a little of this, a little of that. But as far as blowing up on YouTube, I really had to practice what I preach. If I say I'm an SEO and some of the old school principles of lining up the crosshairs of keyword targeting is still in place, still very important, I got to do that. And I couldn't very well have the title tag not lined up. And so that fourth crosshair is, of course, the off-page links leading back to the page using those same Write Python in the Write Python web crawler, toil and talk with audience, into the anchor text of links leading back to that page. So there's that one, there's this one here, and then of course once I make the next blog post there will be one leading back to this page on that topic. So that's fixed. And in the process of fixing that, I was thinking through some other stuff, basically how ad hoc and off the cuff and shooting from the hip and all the rest of it my whole blog release system is. Whenever you see me run the script called Blast, what I'm running is the one that's in my last buffer here in Vim. So I keep a bunch of files loaded in Vim, right? These are all the files of the different websites I might be publishing at any given time, because as an SEO, one of the things you do is you keep your irons in the fire. You throw your hat in the ring. You have skin in the game, whatever other metaphor you want to use, because if you're not a genuine SEO. You don't know what's going on. So you need to get that feedback loop of data. You publish, you take the data in, you make adjustments to what you publish, you look at more data coming in. It's simple as that. If you're not doing that, you don't really know what's going on in the field in the state of search. So this is how I do that. And the main script that runs it is a bash script, bin bash blast. Jump to the final buffer. Some geek jokes going on in there. And, I do a bunch of stuff like loading an external file and then stepping through and doing something for each file. That's being done here. I load the file name helper sites. But I also have bprev, this other file that is not a bash script, but is actually a .py file, which does similar things, loading that same file, stepping through them, doing other stuff in here. So it's a mixture of a .py file and a bash file. Now, to add insult to injury, I also have my release system. It's not this one here, but if I go into GitHub and I go into blog slicer, it's the other core file that I use. So I have two core files here. So we're going to have to keep them straight. If I hover over it, I'll be able to see this one is blog slicer and this one is MLSEO, another thing I'm going to be talking about today. But this naming convention of 00_core.ipynb comes from Jeremy Howard and the nbdev project, which allows you to use Jupyter notebooks as pip installable packages to publish packages into the Python packaging index. So whenever you pip install, you're getting stuff from this organization, PYPI, Python Packaging Org, pythonpackagingindex.org. There you have it. This is them. You'll find blog slicer in there, which is one of my packages I released with this method. And you will also find MLSEO in there, which is another package I released using these methods. They're both in alpha, so you can pip install them, but good luck. But I will be maturing them right here in front of you, right here in front of your eyes, this session and sessions following. And I'm learning how to do this. So we go through a maturation process in Python, starting out just hello world, writing our first rudimentary scripts, learning how to turn those scripts into command lines for the command line interface so that you can run Python as either in a notebook or scheduled as like a task. But when you do that, you're generally using, I guess I'll go to the bottom of this because I'll be showing you stuff up top there. It's kind of giving away the punchline. But when you do this, you're generally doing Python space, I'll stop recording a macro, that was by accident, file name .py space, and then whatever attributes you have, if you have file and some, foo.txt, so attributes come in just like any other command line. Now the thing is, it doesn't have to be that way. Actually, I'll leave that. I'll leave at least that much. If you wanted to just type file name, that's possible. And the nbdev package does that because they have nbdev clean nbs. They have nbdev build lib and stuff like that. So those come off as like commands in nbdev. But honestly, they are sitting there somewhere as .py packages. And I was like, how do they do that? And so I knew where to look. I knew where to look to figure out how they do that. By the way, you are welcome to say something if anyone's there. Let me go see if anyone's there. I will be peeking in on you from time to time. Yeah. Okay, so I really am streaming, but no one's there. This is a first. Everyone has stuff to do on Thursday night. It's at 7:45 p.m. I had someone earlier, but hopefully people join in as I go. I've got a nice, excellent connection, which isn't always true in the middle of the night. So this could be a good one. The first thing I did was I searched in Google on how do you create a command line in Python that can be installed with pip, right? That's what nbdev was doing before it occurred to me to research nbdev in particular. So I found this Stack Overflow discussion that said it's a feature of the standard setup tools, really the old-fashioned way to do this stuff that came before wheels and all these packages that facilitate it. So setup tools. And I'm like, nbdev is taking care of the setup tools for me in the things I'm releasing into PyPy. I'm not writing a setup.py myself. I'm just doing a big settings.ini file, which is nbdev's convention, and it turns it into all the various things for conda release, PyPy release, and everything you need. So I'm like, not only is nbdev doing that for me, but nbdev also has a bunch of commands. So they must be doing the very thing I want. And let's see, is that command in there? There's something about command line. Well, anyway, I went over and I found nbdev in GitHub, right? This is them in GitHub. It's fastai/nbdev. And then I said, well, it's going to be in settings.ini, just like everything is. So I clicked in there, and I scrolled down, and lo and behold, there's this thing called console scripts equals nbdev lib and a bunch of stuff, and then all the names of the different things that you can do on the command line for nbdev. So there is the convention, right? This is how they're doing it in a package I very much admire. So then I knew I could pick up console scripts and search on that plus nbdev, and it brought me to the plain old tutorial page. I was actually quite surprised. This is nbdev.fastai/tutorial.html. And I'm like, really? So I went looking, and it turned out set up console scripts right here. So behind the scenes, nbdev uses that standard package setup tools for handling installation of modules. It's confirming what was said over here in the Stack Overflow thing. It's the standard setup tools. Okay, 2 confirmations that it's just setup tools. One very useful feature of setup tools is that it can also automatically create cross-platform console scripts. So those things you can run from the command line will run from the command line on a Mac, on Windows, or on Linux and Linux subsystem for Windows. What a nice benefit. Now, I know it's with mixed results because I've tried to use these nbdev tools. They do work in PowerShell quite well. Not so much the DOS command prompt, but so PowerShell it is. nbdev surfaces this functionality to use the same format as setup tools, so the existing documentation will help me, with white space between each script definition if you have more than one. So I've got an example. Now here's the thing that led me to this video. To test and use your modules in other projects, so in other words, to import your Jupyter Notebook nbdev created package to test your pip installable package and to test your console script. So you need it to test those kinds of scripts I'm talking about. The easiest possible approach is to use an editable install. A what now? What don't I know about this? 10 years into Python, but really it takes 10 years to become expert at like a bunch of stuff in Python. It's just like Linux and Vim and Git. You're not going to master everything. So to do this, cd to the root of your repo, your GitHub repo or your Git repo. It's always going to be GitHub in this case, because if it's not in GitHub, it's not in nbdev. So you cd to your GitHub repo and you type pip install -e space period. That makes your package importable from other notebooks. I tried to test this during lunch and I failed miserably. Someone out there might have tuned into that stream and go, I know what you're talking about. Probably not. So I'll be showing it to you for the first time and doing it probably quite a bit better than I did during lunch, because it occurred to me that all the stuff that I need to do is doable through, well, first I want to go into the directory I want to work from, which in this case will be practice 2. It's doable from a terminal, which is now working as it should under Jupyter Lab 3.3.4-2. They got it right. So first things first, you got to understand that when you pip install something like ML SEO, we can watch carefully at where it's going to be put. It's something called like setup tools. It's a directory deep within your directory structure that no one actually, site packages. It's deep within your directory structure. It's somewhere nobody ever goes. But when you do that, you can now create a new notebook, and you can import MLSEO, right? This is the benefit of pip install. Pip install. Now, all your notebooks have sort of a global access to the package. It's wonderful, right? If you wanted to do this kind of thing without pip install, you would have to do trickery of putting that directory as a subdirectory here, or other various tricks that can pull it off. By the way, run me is not defined. That's because it's under MLSEO. I usually import MLSEO, from MLSEO import asterisk. So when you don't, you got to use MLSEO before it, and it invites you to chase the rabbit, and it's going to be a whole Alice in Wonderland thing, chasing the rabbit down into the rabbit hole. Okay, I gotta turn my phone over so I'm not distracted by these lease things. I hope it's not super important. Oh, the risk of doing live. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up really quick. I'm gonna get to the point. This won't be one of the super long rambling ones. Conversely to doing that install with the terminal, clear, you can pip uninstall MLSEO. I believe it's uninstall. No, pip remove. Make sure I get that right. Unknown command remove, uninstall. I probably had it right in the first place. I'm sure I did. Yeah. Okay. So yes, uninstall it. And now if we go back to that untitled and we restart the kernel, important to do because it's in memory, and we try to import MLSEO again, not there. Okay? The global presence of MLSEO was removed. The pip install was uninstalled. It's not there. However, it is local on my machine because I developed the thing. Where is it local on my machine? And I keep wanting to go over to the right to get to a terminal to do it from a Linux terminal. But this is not the context of that Linux terminal. So even though I have these directories here, this is MLSEO from the Linux subsystem for Windows. And I could, in fact, pip install here. But if I pip install MLSEO on this side, on the Linux side, see all that stuff getting installed? It looks like it's installed. It's only installed on the Linux side. It's not available to the Jupyter Windows side context. These are separate worlds. They have separate python.exes. So that terminal over there isn't going to help me. But this terminal over here will help me, but I'm not going to just pip install again because that would make it global. It would be the one out of PyPy. I'm going to use the new information I acquired, which is cd GitHub. So I'm in my GitHub directory, and then I cd into MLSEO, which is the location where I do the development. Now the new piece of knowledge, that piece of knowledge I was showing you over in the web browser here, pip install -e space period. Okay? So I'll just type it to make sure the point is made. Can I make that font bigger? Yeah, I can. Pip install -e, which is the same thing, I believe, as what was I going to say in my notebook? It stands for something. -e is also hyphen something, but I'll do -e, period. Ready, set, go. It's a local path it's working from. It's doing the setup.py type stuff, running setup.py, develop for ML SEO. Successful. It has now installed ML SEO globally but locally. Globally but locally. Sounds like Unix symlinks type stuff. We go back to my untitled, which looks a little different now because the font difference. I'll bring it down a bit. We restart the kernel. We run it. And it's running. It's running local. Now let's convince ourselves it's running local. So I can just go over to the place where I actually develop it. I have the bunny showing, and I'll just put some spaces here and some exclamation points, right? Save it. I don't really have to save it. It will auto save, but it's not a bad idea to save it. And then I have to do nbdev build lib. And I can do that either from the Unix side, or I should say the Linux side, or the Windows side. But for familiarity's sake, I'm going to do it from the Linux side, right? This is a place where they are in common, even though they're separate python.exes, generating a .py file and plopping it somewhere, you can do it either side just as well. So this is a case where you can use your Linux development tools for Windows side Jupyter development. It's just beautiful. So this is going to be nbdev build lib. And it built the libs. There they are. So I go back over here. I go back to my untitled, and this will prove to us that I'm working locally with a pip install, a local pip install. And if this works, this will be a great success, and I'm going to stop my live stream early. If you got questions, if anyone's there, get them in quick, because I'll be disconnecting from the live thing in a very short order. Got to check that text. We restart the kernel. We import ML SEO. And we chase the rabbit. There's the exclamation points right there. It's local development, ladies and gentlemen. I did not know this. So very important, so very important. So the takeaway here, and I'm not going to walk you through the whole thing here, my thought process, but I'm going to be unifying all my blog development under a series of standalone command line commands, CLI commands, like Vue.js does. A lot of people are doing it these days this way. It's very much in vogue. nbdev was my inspiration, but I'm going to be able to do it easily because of this magic incantation that I did not know about before, which is pip install -e period. Very, very important, very powerful magic. In fact, one of the other places on the web that I had investigated it, do I have that one even open anymore? I do not think I do. I closed one of my tabs that said this was the Python tip of the year because it's so important. It takes care of so many of the headaches and grief things that really do exist on, package development. And so now creating pip installable packages, things that you can install from out of PyPy, that can actually run as commands on the CLI of Linux or Macs or Windows, usually PowerShell in Windows, I'm discovering. You can write them in Python and make operating system independent command line tools that you can use the Linux API to sort of knit together in a bash script with arguments so that you can control a thing like this blog release system that I'm working on. That creates perfectly search-optimized pages, which you can easily embed videos in. It gets very meta. And wow, what a wonderful process. I'm super pumped about this and wanted to share this discovery with you folks. So yeah, thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon and show you the improved publishing system that will help me create this virtuous cycle of publishing on the web search optimized, publishing on YouTube with interesting topics, coming up in auto suggest, bringing in the social medias, and create the snowballing effect, which, you know, I advocated in the olden days when I first came to New York, started the HitTail keyword suggestion tool, had 15 years of life, and quite honestly, its premise still works. I wasn't giving it the tender love and care that it needed because I did it for work for hire, got married, went off and did other things. But the wizardry, the magic is just as powerful as ever, and I'll be blogging the explosion for you. So thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.